All right, we're going to dive into a pretty wild idea today, one that comes from neuroscience and the work of author Alfred. It's a concept that might just flip everything you thought you knew about your brain and the world you see around you. So let's get into it.
You know, the poet William Blake wrote this more than 200 years ago, and it really hits at a question that people have been asking forever. Are we actually seeing reality as it is, or is something getting in the way?
Usually, we think of our brain as a builder. You know, it takes in all this sensory data, sights, sounds, smells, and constructs the world for us. But what if that's totally backwards? What if reality is already this huge, infinite thing, and the brain's main job is just to cut most of it out so we don't get overwhelmed?
And that is exactly the argument that author Alfred makes. He suggests our brain isn't a generator at all. It's a reducer. Think of it like a biological filter or a valve that narrows down this immense cosmic reality into a tiny, manageable stream of information that we can actually handle. It means we're not seeing everything, not even close. We're just seeing the little bit we need to survive.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this, we have to get specific. We need to zoom in and find the exact spot in the brain that's responsible for creating our sense of me, our sense of self, and our place in the universe.
So, let me introduce you to the Orientation Association area, or the OAA for short. It's this little region tucked away back here in the brain, and you can think of it as our internal GPS. It's the part that's constantly working 24/7 to draw a line that says, this is me, and that is everything else.
And think about how fundamental its jobs are. The OAA is what gives you a sense of having a physical body with clear boundaries. It's what lays out the world in 3 dimensions for you, and it's what takes all these fleeting moments and strings them together into the past, present, and future. Basically, it builds the entire framework of your reality. So, here's the million-dollar question. What would happen if you could just turn this area down, or even off? Well, a really fascinating neuroscience experiment did exactly that, and what they found was, honestly, mind-blowing.
So these 2 neuroscientists, Andrew Newberg and Eugene D'Aquili, they did something clever. They brought in some very experienced meditators. We're talking Tibetan Buddhists and Franciscan nuns. They hooked them up to an IV. The idea was simple. When you reach the absolute peak of your meditative spiritual experience, pull this string. The string would release a harmless radioactive dye that would instantly map their brain activity, giving the scientists a perfect snapshot of that exact moment.
And this right here, this is the core finding. On the left, you see a scan of a normal brain. The OAA, that self-center, is lit up like a Christmas tree in bright reds and yellows. But look at the right. During that peak meditative state, that same area goes dark. It turns this deep, quiet blue. The amazing discovery wasn't that some spiritual center lit up. It was that the part of the brain that creates the self shut down.
Okay, so we've seen the brain scans, we've seen the science, but what does that actually feel like? What's the experience when that self-center in your brain just goes offline?
Well, the technical term for it is deafferentation. It's a fancy word, but basically it means that the OAA gets starved of the sensory information it needs to do its job. Without that constant stream of data telling it where your body ends and the chair begins, or how time is passing, it just can't draw those boundaries anymore.
In the experience the meditators described, it's profound. A feeling of being infinite, completely interwoven with everything in existence. Time and space just dissolve. There are no separate objects, no separate me anymore. The boundary between the self and the universe completely disappears into the state of pure, unified awareness. The scientists actually gave it a name, the absolute unitary state.
And this, of course, brings us to the biggest question of all. Was this incredible, life-changing experience real? Was it a genuine perception of a deeper reality? Or was it just a really convincing hallucination created by a brain that was temporarily offline?
Yeah, let's put it plainly. How do we interpret what happened in that lab? Was it just a neurological glitch, a beautiful error, or was it a genuine peek behind the curtain of reality?
So you've got 2 main ways of looking at this. On one hand, the skeptic says it's a hallucination. It's a mental error caused by messing with the brain's hardware, and you can even trigger similar feelings with drugs or magnetic fields. But on the other hand, you have Alfred's hypothesis. Deactivating the OAA doesn't break the brain, it just removes the filter. It allows you to perceive, for a moment, a more fundamental, unified reality. And what's really interesting is that this perceived reality sounds a lot like what modern physics describes, a unified, non-local universe.
But here's where the neuroscientists themselves threw a fascinating wrench into the whole "it's just a hallucination" argument. They pointed out that everything we perceive is just neurological activity. The feeling of solidity of the wall in front of you, that's a brain event. So if you're going to dismiss this profound spiritual experience as mere brain activity, then to be logical, you also have to be suspicious of your brain's perception of the ordinary material world.
In fact, the scientists who ran the whole study were so moved by their own findings that they concluded their work with this powerful idea. They suggested that this state might be exactly what it feels like it is, a window, a brief glimpse into a reality that is truly real and maybe even divine.
And so that really leaves us with one last question to chew on. Is reality, the detailed, separate, moment-to-moment story our brain carefully builds for us every single day? Or is true reality that infinite connected wholeness that's only revealed when the brain's busy storyteller finally goes quiet?